What gave you the confidence to see this vision through for what Othership would become?
4 years ago, this was a garage. I was like buying ice from the grocery store by hand, putting it in a horse trough. And I just had friends who believed in me and said, you can prove like you're the world leader in this thing.
What a swing it's been. Favorite Impact Kitchen menu item?
I'm so happy you asked me this. It is my favorite restaurant. It's the place I've eaten at the most. I think the omelet is outstanding. The brownies are incredible. I've had crepes and pancakes everywhere in the city. And the Impact waffle is like maybe my favorite dessert of all time.
All right.
I think I had like $62 in my bank account. I had to move out of my apartment in Toronto. I ended up moving back into my parents' basement. I have ADHD, was struggling with drug use. I'm like a loser.
Robbie, thank you for being on the Impact Community Podcast.
Absolutely. Grateful. I've been watching videos pop up and I was like, wow, I hope he invites me on.
Well, I had an awesome morning. I started at the 7 a.m. free flow class at your Adelaide location, and it hit me in the sauna. I really reflected back to, almost our first time ever connecting and your garage at Inward, and you took me through about a 2-hour experience. And I remember in the sauna, you talking about obviously hot, cold, but then mental health, burnout, addiction, sobriety, community, and really your vision for what Othership would become. And it's so incredible to see that what you were thinking about that 5, 6, 7 years ago in your garage is really manifested into what it's become. So my first question is really, what gave you the confidence to follow that passion and really see this vision through to what Othership has become?
It's pretty crazy, man, the way you put it like that. It just reminded me of like that day. And so yesterday or last week I was in New York, on like floor 77 of like the largest private developer in the US, talking to them about coming into one of their new buildings. And I'm like 4 years ago, this was a garage. I was like buying ice from the grocery store by hand and like putting it in a horse trough. And it was one of those moments of like, wow, like what can happen when you push something forward? And so I don't think it was one moment, it was kind of, hey, there's an ice bath so we can make friends in the neighborhood, to have a healthy thing at night that's not like alcohol based. And we just wanted to make friends. And so inviting people in, then it was like, oh, well, it gets cold, so let's build this garage so people can come and use it in the winter. So sauna, ice bath, and a garage. And then even the next step was still, there seems to be about like 1,000 people coming to this. Why don't the 5 co-founders all put in a little bit of money, take a bit of debt and fund something? It seems like if we just have this community convert, we can make something work. And so we got a dirt cheap lease during COVID, and it was the next step. Then that was open, and right away, big, huge community. There's things people were saying, people are crying, becoming friends. We're like, wow, this is really special and doesn't exist in the US. So next step was, okay, let's get, a lease in New York. And that was kind of the moment where like some real confidence was required. And I think a lot of it was just being naive of, oh, we did this and we know how to do construction. Like we did this at Adelaide. We can do it in New York, like no problem. And so we actually signed 2 leases at once in Williamsburg and Flatiron, which is similar to the swing that you took as well. But you having, 10 years of operating experience, huge team, 5, 6, 7 units in Toronto. So it was a way bigger swing, probably foolish looking back and naive, but it didn't happen all at once. There was always a lot of like, wow, this product is amazing and people love it, as like giving us confidence that it really was like the best in the world. But that's when the swing happened, was like, hey, let's go to New York hard. And I just had friends who, believed in me and said like, no, this is the best. Like I do this all over the world. This is the best. Like you should go and you should open in New York. If you can open and dominate the New York market, you can prove like you're the world leader in this thing. And I think all 5 of us co-founders are like competitive and really believe in the excellence around what we're doing, like to the finest detail. And it was that idea of, yeah, we want to be the best in the world at this thing. And that kind of gave us the confidence to take the swing.
That's awesome. Well, what a swing it's been. Impact community, I hope you're enjoying this episode with Robbie Bent. As a thank you for listening, we want to offer you 7 days of free broth. Download the Impact app, use the promo code Robbie, and enjoy the broth. I was reading about your background and I found it really interesting and unique that it seems like you started off on a more conventional path, going to business school, becoming a financial analyst, and then pivoting to more entrepreneurial roles, doing some startups, working for Ethereum, and then obviously into Othership. Can you give me like a brief, history of, your path to how you've gotten here today?
Yeah, I think the best things come from meandering, so I was lucky. It's also very hard to take contrarian positions or do contrarian things. And I just sort of was lucky in that I failed my way into this. And, I tried finance because I wanted to make money. I really wanted to be successful, like make my parents proud. That was my driving internal why in high school. It was like, I want to be successful, have nice things, people will like me. So finance, that seemed like that's the fastest way to make money. So I did that out of school. Actually set me up, the ability now to raise money and do leases and like think about the P&L and grow the business. Like those skills are pretty invaluable and they're uncommon for most entrepreneurs to start with. So I look back and I'm like pretty grateful for that time, but like hated that job, really tough career, tough family life. I didn't see anyone there who was like healthy that I was like, wow, I really want to be this person. It's kind of like the grind. Like you put everything into this work so you can have a bit of money to buy things, which is, lucky. The fund I worked for imploded during the credit crisis. So even that, like I probably would have kept doing that. And so was forced out, was around 24, didn't know what to do, saw startups, saw Facebook, was kind of popping off at the same time. I was like starting my career and thought like, oh, well, how that's the best way to make money. Like forget finance. Like, you can do these startups and just not knowing what it was to run a business. And so I found a technical co-founder in Toronto. I joined him and we built this thing, kind of like Google Fi, like a SIM card, which would allow you to use your phone anywhere globally, which like roam like home for any Canadian listeners. That slogan, you might've seen in the airport. Like I actually invented that slogan.
No way.
Like roam like home. So that company went bankrupt and somebody bought it from me out of auction. I didn't know who. And then bought it for like $15,000. It was like the last money we made for the company. And I was walking up to the airport one day and I look up and it's like 15 billboards, just like roam like home. And that's been their slogan for like 15 years.
Totally.
So that was pretty crazy experience. But so that then did that for 4 years, also failed. So built way too big of a team, spent too much money building the technology, product was never good enough. I learned, that's where I cut my teeth on like, how do you hire? What does a lean startup look like? How do you market? What does sales look like? So I had no experience with any of that. Made every mistake that you can possibly make. And that business failed as well. And so I ended up, I remember like, I think I had like $62 in my bank account. I had to move out of my apartment in Toronto and I was like really cared about material things at that point. And I just felt like a total loser. Like I felt like, hey, I think I was like 30, just after 30, been doing that for 4 years. And like I would go out for dinner and like ask for the side check, maybe get a sparkling water, an appetizer, and all my friends from finance are doing quite well. So that was very humbling and / embarrassing. I ended up moving back into my parents' basement. And I felt like really at that point in time, like mental health problems, low, I have ADHD, was struggling with drug use, was just like, I'm like a loser, like everything I've tried to do, it hasn't worked. So it was just challenging period. And through that period, I reflecting, like actually learned so much. So I had this finance skill set and then I had this product skill set of like, I'd hired, 50 people at that company. I'd ran marketing, I'd done sales, I'd like been to factories. And so all these things that I thought I felt like, oh, I'm not an engineer. I don't really have any skills. They actually have come into play now quite a lot. So from that point, I ended up moving to Israel. I got really into meditation, like 10-day silent retreats, because they were free. I didn't have to, I couldn't afford to come home. So I just did that over like a Christmas. And so I was out there working with somebody from my startup and I got sober through that practice and learned about psychedelic medicines, moved back to Toronto. And then it kind of shifted my desires of like, oh, I'm just going to try to do anything to make money to, I'm going to try to be around like the smartest people. And so through a friend from business school, he was talking about Ethereum and he's like, hey, I moved to Silicon Valley. The energy here is crazy. So my girlfriend at the time, I was like, hey, why don't you quit your job and like move with me? And so we moved to San Francisco together. We're like living on couches initially. I was just kind of throwing these events, meeting all these people in early crypto. And I got involved with Ethereum, joined Ethereum. And then I worked in that ecosystem for 4 years and things started to turn around. So it was quite successful there. And I went from like literally like lowest possible point to like, okay, I have some confidence. I feel I can make something happen. And all this time I was going to bathhouses every week because I don't drink. And so that was really important to be around people who weren't into alcohol and drugs because I really struggled. So, we were going to bathhouses weekly. We moved back to Toronto 2019 and I'd have this life of like, great job in crypto, was making good money, girlfriend, very stable. And I was worried that I'd get back into drugs. And so we created this ice bath in my backyard. No brick and mortar experience, no experience in hospitality, although my family's in the restaurant business. And we just started from scratch. It wasn't even meant to be a business. It was just like, hey, we're going to do this thing for fun, with the idea of like, if we can build a healthy community for people that aren't drinking anymore, that would be like a really cool thing. And it just all kind of went from there.
That's a great story. And, I've known you only as an entrepreneur and working, on Othership since 7+ years ago. We know being an entrepreneur is glamorized. And, I know we've had some great conversations about the pain of it, and the fun of it. How have you have you implemented some strategies in your life to think about, burnout, loneliness, the more painful side of entrepreneurship? How do you personally deal with that?
I don't know there's like an answer, because like I'm still having mental breakdowns. Like no joke, like it just, when things are going really well, it becomes easier to push harder. And the more successful you are, the more opportunities open up, and the harder you push, the more risk you take on. And so right now we're talking about our 5th unit just before this, and it's another big swing, a full evolution of the brand. And bathhouses, so Othership is a sauna, ice bath space that is built around these guided emotional journeys and connecting with friends. It's like the best detail / design, like I think there is out there personally. And then the training, the hospitality training is next level in terms of like, how we train the staff. We want it to be more like a 5-star restaurant than a traditional gym. And then the pricing is pretty accessible compared to a normal spa. So we want frequency. And to do that, we offer, it's quite crowded and it's short time. And because you're getting like a better price, better design, better staff training, you have to give somewhere. And for most people that practice is amazing. But for some, they want to stay longer. They want more features. We were just talking about how you like to go to bathhouse. And so we're like, oh, I think we can build something for people that don't cold plunge and want to stay for a long time. Now, that's a huge change to the business model now, but a swing, like I get super excited about building the best product in the world, and we always wanted to build a bathhouse. So what does the best mineral magnesium pool look like? What does the best steam room look like? How can we make, the best bathhouse in the world? And so, I just bring this up because this is a swing we're taking, and it's triple the budget of anything we've built before. It's a completely new product. And at first, always these things feel good. And when you get through them, there's like this messy part that's really hard. And so I woke up the other day just with nightmares. Like, did I make the wrong decision? I don't think that, but I feel a lot of fear, especially when there's finance and numbers involved. I've had a company that failed. I've been broke. I've lived in my parents' basement. Like, that's a huge trigger for me. So I want like budding entrepreneurs to take away like that kind of, I don't know that ever goes away. It hasn't for me. If a competitor opens, my first always thought there's like a bit of fear there, and then I'll go and see it and usually feel better. But those are things I haven't really adjusted to. Is just like the fear of failure, scarcity, bankruptcy. Like it just always, you never know with these brick and mortar businesses, what's going to happen. Some things that I've done, like this, I've started working out again. So during when we opened Flatiron, I was just like, literally would wake up like 4 coffees, smoke a vape all day, work until 10 p.m. and order like a giant pizza and then crash. And I've always been pretty healthy, and starting this business, it really like, kind of destroyed that. And so I'm back in the last year. I'm trying to do 2 weight lifts a week. I was also hard when we were doing Flatiron. I was managing my son, brand new. He's 3 years old, moving to New York, family life, all this stuff. It was like really intense. So I'm not sure how you can do that. Like you're taking on, like as the CEO, you're like armoring up and you're maybe fighting with your construction team. Everybody has an ask for you and you have to hold the boundary for everyone. So that is just a thing that is not normal in life. Like usually with your friends, you don't like something, you can kind of back away. Like you don't have to have conflict. And in entrepreneurship, you have to have conflict. It doesn't have to be mean, but you have to hold boundaries. And like doing that day after day is pretty draining. So
yeah,
I don't know how you get through it, but I don't have an answer. Like I have great coaches that help me. So that's been extremely helpful. Like the person I work with now, like without him, I don't know what I would do. And I've had like different styles of coaches, some very successful, some not, but this one, having someone who's like done it before, who can like give me advice I can trust, like a trusted voice. I think that's probably worth way more than any therapy or, so I guess having like a trusted voice has been most helpful for me now. And then exercise. If I don't exercise, I start to go crazy. And then I'm trying not to travel. So this is a crazy one. It's going to probably sound to most people like that's ridiculous, but like not taking vacation this year, because on the vacation, I like, if I have more and more emails, it makes me feel worse. If I'm just sitting there. So what actually makes me feel good is that I feel in control of like the complexity and everything. If I'm like up to date on my emails, I know what everybody's doing, I feel like I can relax. And if I feel like I'm behind on 20 things, I just start to like lose my mind a little bit. So I don't know another way for that, but I guess point is like, I'm struggling. I also love it at times. Like there's some of my best moments have been best moments have been delivering something I'm like so proud of, which we can talk about. But I don't know. I think it's just, hey, if you're signing up for this, know what you're getting into, and it's kind of a sacrifice. And also I'm okay. It's kind of like, I don't know, I heard this thing where you say like a hungry person, and then you get mad that you get like food, like you asked to eat, like I asked for this, I decided we're going to scale and open multiple units in New York. Like that's kind of what comes along with it for a period. And I'm okay with that in this season of life.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a bit of be careful what you ask for some entrepreneurs. They think it's more glamorous that they see on Instagram, but the only ones that I have known that are successful, live a lifestyle similar to what you're saying. Like they're working hard, it's stressful, but they also love it. So it's a lifestyle choice that you make.
I think it's like you love it and you hate it. Like
there's a bit of that
all
yin
the
and yang.
best people I know, especially building, like it's one thing if you're built like brick and mortar is like probably the hardest business to build. Anything that's like service related with so many employees and so many customer touch points. All businesses are hard, but it's like particularly brutal. I just like the stuff that happens in the space on a day to day would like blow people's minds and of like what can go wrong, Yeah. Like we've had like multiple floods where you come in and it's like, and like every good CEO I know in brick and mortar is like, has like a cry per year, like a full breakdown. Yeah. And like, these are like smart, it's not even the hard work. It's like the uncertainty and challenge day to day. So some days it's just like, I would give this business away almost because I just can't handle it. And then other days I'm like, this is the best thing in my life. I can't believe we did this. Which also to work on something and have that kind of impact, like I'll almost be in tears sometimes when I like look at it and like think of like same what you accomplished when I look at it. I'm like, wow, that's like amazing,
Yeah. And you're in a unique position because you're the CEO, you're a co-founder, your wife is a co-founder, and then there's another couple that's a co-founder, and then one of your good friends. So there's 5 founders and you're the CEO. Talk a little bit about, I'm sure it's taken an evolution and a bit of a journey on, clarifying everyone's roles and responsibilities and how you guys are going to communicate with each other. Like, I know that's challenging. Like, how have you guys navigated through that, through like growth, which brings stress into the mix?
Yeah, it's been like in some ways it's a superpower, right? So if you have like co-founder energy, there's like a magic there that's like very inspirational. So for everybody on the front lines, like your most important people who are cleaning the space, greeting the customers, guiding people, like that's what makes the business. And so when you have co-founder energy there, it's like a bit of inspiration of like, wow, this started in these people's backyards. Like they care so much. And there's 5 people that can push that. So somebody can always be in New York. Somebody, if we go to Boston, could be there. If we're in DC, can be there. They can be here. So I think, and co-founders, naturally, everything is on the line. So like a 70-hour work week, yeah, that's happening. So 5 people to be going that hard, it's like a superpower. But then you also have 5 sets of opinions. For us, it was really interesting because from a business standpoint, in terms of like what to open, where, how to raise money, all that stuff, the team had trusted me and just said, hey, you have way more experience in this stuff. Like you make these decisions. And so everybody has a lane that's very clear. At first it was harder because it wasn't meant to be a real business. It was just like 5 friends doing something fun together. And even at one unit, it was more of like a partnership to like open this unit. And so there was definitely, we had a coach that worked together with the entire team. So people got used to, like when you start, when I started, I was very conflict averse. Opening in New York has beaten that out of me completely. I'm very like much more used to it now. But when we all started, we're all junior managers. So like sharing constructive feedback is challenging. And if you don't do that, you can build up resentment. And so even how to do that was challenging. So having time and a coach to share constructive feedback with that would then put us all on the same path was quite helpful. And over time, ensuring everyone has a defined role that works for them, that they can be excellent at, has been very important. Now we're getting to the stage where we kind of need professionals to scale every role. So it's not common that a co-founder is going to be an expert in finance or an expert in operations or an expert in legal or an expert in HR. So it's finding things that co-founders can do that are unique to them. And so a lot of that is on the product and programming side. There's nobody in the world who's going to be better at programming classes than Harry and Amanda. There's nobody that's going to talk about the brand the way my wife talks about the brand. I mean, she created like the language and the soul of the brand from scratch. There's nobody that's going to talk to investors and like set the vision of like, what should this be? Should it be a giant bathhouse? Should it be 20,000 square feet? Should it have a food component? Like, so there's kind of all of us are finding like what we're excellent at that an expert won't come in and be able to do.
That's great. And with your co-founder group, going back to before you opened, when I think of Othership now, the probably word that comes up most to me is community. And the community you guys have created in Toronto, New York is incredible. People are tattooing your logo on their body. They're getting engaged in your space, and it's really cool to see. When you guys were in the ideation phase, probably in your garage, in your backyard, what was the conversation around making a brand that is connected to their community so closely like you guys are?
Well, I think it was never like, it wasn't about a company or a brand. It was just like, hey, let's actually make a space to make friends. And so the whole vibe, the whole purpose, like it just happened to be a sauna and an ice bath, but the whole vibe was like, how do we have people over to our house that share our values? And so a lot of us have done, me for addiction, like a lot of work. And so Vipassana meditation retreats. I lived in a cave for 8 days. I've done like 100 psychedelic journeys. I've done a ton of men's work, I've done a bunch of group therapy, I've done Hoffman, Landmark, Tony Robbins, like all the stuff you can do to like work on when you're at your lows. I've done it. I thought that stuff is so cool. Harry and Amanda were facilitators beforehand. Harry's an artist. He's a D1 hockey player. Like my wife is very into nutrition, has been, she's Master of Science. Everybody was very interested in like these like personal growth things. And there's nowhere to hang out with other people who are into those, like it's just like, it's fringe now, but it's growing every year. More and more people like talking about mental health. Like that wasn't 2017, 18, super fringe. Now it's becoming more and more normal, but like, where do those people hang out? So our goal was just, hey, can we make a cool place where if you're like, don't want to drink and you want to talk about your emotions and you're into this personal development stuff, or like come here. And so the whole vibe was like creating a container for that one focus. And I think to this day, there's like lots of sauna ice bath spaces and bathhouses, but there's none of them will like focus on emotions, like none. And even in their marketing, people are like, oh, we want to build Othership, but without like the weird cult part. And it's like, what they don't get is like, that's the part that makes it the community. There's like a real why, and there's people who hate it. Like people are like, I looked in my eyes there. Oh my God, it's so weird. Like, great. I don't care. It's not for them. It's for a group of people that like, hey, I care about my emotional state and I want to be in a group of others that do that too. And I think having like a mission allows for you to build a community because it kind of self-selects. And so people who come to our classes, guess what? Those are the people you run into at the social and the free flows because it kind of self-selects. And I think the more you are differentiated around like a why, the easier it is to build real community. Because at some point, like at first, it's really interesting, like Toronto, New York. Because in Toronto, it was me inviting all my friends and then friends of friends. And then I would go to places where I think people would like this. So, different churches and physiotherapy clinics and like all kinds of different places where I thought people would be into feeling their emotions. So it was like hand done. And at a point in time, you can't really do that anymore as a founder. And so we've created such a tight language and container with our classes. It just kind of ported to New York and it happened on its own through the experience. So this idea that you're having guided group shares in the experience, the language that the guides are using, the training for the guides, their hospitality training, like we'll take the customer side every single time. We're going to give you something if it doesn't match your expectations. Like I got that from Danny Meyer setting the table. And so it's been really interesting to see that like something, because of like how strong the why is, it's creating its own community. I think that's what you really want. Like this year, Harry was saying the last wave of guides we hired, he just had a baby. He wasn't able to be involved in the training, and the guides are just as good and just as bought in. And so when I go to Yorkville, sometimes I don't know the people because I'm not there as much. It's one of now 5. And to see people that I've never met, you know, we always do these, like when a new wave of guides come, we'll have these like talent shows, and we'll have, you know, special like onboarding icebreakers where people share. And I'm seeing people who join share and they're crying. They don't even know who I am or that I'm there. And it like happened without us through the system we built. So I think that's to me is like, wow, this can now, I think it's ready to scale while maintaining the values that we've instilled.
Yeah, well, what's special is, and a compliment to your team is, I always go in and I never tell anybody that I know you guys, and I'm asking questions about how do you like working at Othership. And the lady this morning was just so passionate about your brand and proud to work at Othership. So it really can show that, you know, what the 5 founders have created has trickled into your team, which is you know, great to see. I'm curious though, when you guys were thinking about this, or even to this day, are there other brands that inspire you to be better as Othership's growing still?
Yeah, I mean, I read everything that Will Guidara puts out. He's got a new hospitality field guide coming out in a couple months. So the story of 11 Madison Park. Mm-hmm. I always I've been inspired by restaurants from a hospitality standpoint. I think they're just the best in the world. I always try to stay at super nice hotels as well. So Four Seasons, this is like out of my price range, but I'll do it as like research. So I stayed at the Aman in New York. We have a partnership with them and they gave me a discount. It's out of my price range also, but I stayed there and was just like blown away. You know, my wife and I went out, we came back, there was like flower petals all over the room with like these little meditation necklaces and handwritten notes. And so I'm always looking for, like, we even have a part of our meetings are sharing hospitality stories of the week that you've seen at other brands. So I think hotels, but hotels aren't necessarily as one-to-one as a restaurant is. Like there's not as much conversation time. It's kind of like you're checking in and then you want to get to your room and like off a little bit. But in restaurants, you might have 10 interactions with a waiter throughout the meal, a waiter, waitress, and it can like really, for me, it can be the best part of my meal. So I wanted to take that, like, how do we make you feel like you're at home in this space? And I've never seen it done in fitness. Like fitness to me is like bottom of the barrel hospitality traditionally. So it's very important to be inspired by restaurants and like what is working at restaurants. So Will Guidara, Danny Meyer. And then I was inspired a lot by some of these esoteric community groups. So like the Hoffman retreat, the Hoffman process, a lot of the activities that are happening in the classes come from somatic and psychotherapy. And we are very much like, this has to appeal to a broad base of people who have jobs and are stressed. And like that was me, that's us as founders. So I got inspired. Like I didn't want it to be too spiritual that, you know, you would come and be like, whoa, this is too much. So everything is driven around emotions, acceptance, forgiveness, gratitude, loving kindness, things that people feel. And so we got a lot of inspiration from the Hoffman process as a retreat, psychedelic medicine retreats and how those are structured for group sharing, men's and women's groups. Absolutely. So I'll try all these different personal growth things and like pull from those. So I think it's a mix of really that world of transformational work and hospitality and like blending those two things. That's why it feels pretty different than hey, I worked at a gym and now this is the hot cold version of a gym, which we see all over the US.
Yeah, it feels so different. I mentioned earlier, you know, it feels like something special when you go there. And I think that's why people talk about it so much outside of your walls. I've heard you talk about the 11-star experience and the mindset behind that. Can you just give me a walkthrough of how you guys created that and maybe some of the pieces of the Othership puzzle that grew out of that mindset?
Yeah, we did this thing. So we used to be like way into the stuff. And then as you get bigger, you start to lose time and it becomes like, oh my God, I'm like dealing with this lease and managing these people and there's this facilities problem. And so like, I think something I'm working on going forward is how to keep the magic and not just get sucked into the admin. Because when we started, we showed up with our designer and each of us did this exercise. So I thought it was maybe called a 5-star exercise. It might, and we just made it 11. And the idea, I heard about it from Airbnb, and he was just like, what is the experience, the best Airbnb? And, the example was like you land and the entire town is there cheering you on, and you like ride an elephant into town and everyone's singing your name. And so it's this exercise of like, if everything was perfect beyond any financial resources, what can you create? And so we all wrote down, we spent like 5 hours went up to Harry's, this like place in the wilderness, no phones, nothing, just kind of like us with our computers writing. And so we did a meditation walk in the morning, like really trying to live the experiences we're doing in our brand. And so that, to this day, we still do that, but we would go up, write this huge thing. And it's like 5 hours of like everything from the moment you open the door. What does the door feel like? What are the smells that greet you? What are the sounds? What is the color of the light? What happens at the desk? What do they say to you? Okay, you walk into the change room. How do you feel? So for each room, like so detailed of like, how does this make you feel? What is happening in a sensory way? And that's why, now like we tried, 50 different tiles, putting them on bare feet. How do they feel? Every single song is like handpicked. Harry needs to approve on every single playlist. Like we don't just use like a Spotify playlist. So like anything that is coming into your brain through any type of your senses, we like to have considered that. And it all starts with that 11-star experience. So you're writing all that out. And like, I remember Harry was like, oh, imagine you went in and, the sauna was kind of like a gravitron, and you started in it, it started spinning, and then it goes like 6 feet under the ground, and you come out and it's like an underground cave bathhouse. And so these ideas just end up leading, like you just take little bits of the feelings that they inspire. And so we took that exercise and we handed it to our designer, and it was like 200 pages long. And she was like, I've never seen, this is so kooky. But then she had so much info on how we wanted you to feel. When the design package came to us first, it was perfect. It was different. And so like something that came out of that 11-star was that light, the feature light that we have in all of our tea rooms is sort of James Turrell inspired. And it's a very specific hue of light that is supposed to convey a feeling of safety in your body. Because in that 11-star, it was like, we want people to feel comfortable no matter what they look like. And so this one we've went back on a little bit, but initially we had no mirrors in the space. And it was like, okay, this is the ultimate, like, doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter what you're wearing. You're not on your phone. There's no mirrors. You're in bare feet. You're meant to touch everything. There's no robes. There's just a big towel that you put on, and the light makes you feel safe. Another interesting thing that came from that is we wanted the experience to be meandering through and unfolding like it's a mystery. And so most bathhouses you go into and it's like one giant room, all these pools everywhere, and you can see a million bodies. We didn't want it to feel like somebody can see you. So if you look to the side, there's not like, 5 guys checking you out kind of thing. We wanted to feel safe. And so the space is actually not super efficiently designed, but it's meant to meander around all these small rooms, kind of like, you don't really know where you're going to next. Each room kind of changes, takes you to the heart of the space, which is generally the last part, which is the cold plunge room, which is like the meditative room. So all of that came from this initial description of how we wanted you to feel. And it took our designer, who I think is like the best in the world, to make that real. But that's kind of the 11 stars, like, and then it also inspires, like, how do you continue to make it better? So we'll do that for new spaces as well.
That's cool. So Rob, since you started Othership, you've gotten married, you started a family. On this theme of the 11-star day, how do you manage your time now to live the life that you want to lead, having new pieces in your life that demand a lot of your time?
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's really tough. I thought we thought maybe, like, we've been having fertility challenges now and trying to have a second child. And sometimes I think like, wow, my son's 3.5 and like it's gone so fast. And like I'm here, I work from home, I see him every day. So I think I'm a good dad. But part of that time, like I haven't been enjoying it. I've been like in a fear state of, we need to raise X money. Was this the right lease? Did we spend too much on this build? What about this competitor? Like, you can't like not think about those things. And so if I'm at home, it's 5 p.m. and I'm trying to like play, but I'm not carefree. I'm like, these things are in my head. And even though I'm there, just, I wonder like, wow, that time is never coming back. Like I'm gonna start crying this morning at my son on my, I take him to school every morning. He goes to school like 3 minutes away, and I put him on my shoulders and I carry him, and it's called like a polar bear. And so he calls it a polar bear, and he's like, I don't want a polar bear today. And I was like, well, it could be the last one. Like, you're going to be too big soon. And then I was like, so sad about that. Like, oh my God, like is it 1 year and I can't even carry him on my shoulders anymore. So I have a bit of guilt about it. And I think I was always like, oh, we'll have a next kid and then I'll be more here. And, that's probably going to happen, hopefully. And so I don't know. I feel like somewhat these years have been sacrificed. I talk to other dads who are doing stuff and they're like, well, you're sacrificing so they're going to have a better life. Fine. Some people I know are like, oh, the most important thing a dad can do is be successful and be a role model. I don't know if I buy that. So I think there's a mix of guilt. One thing that's gone really well, my wife demanded us to have dinner as a family at 5 p.m. And she was like, this is what my family didn't do that. And she's like, my family did. It's important. So every day now I finish work around 4:30, go downstairs, help set up, and we eat at 5. And we have these cards, conversation cards, they're for kids. And they're just really silly, what's one thing you're grateful for today? Stuff like that. And, but in a kid's tone. And it's completely changed the game. So we have this dinner as a family, we do wind down, and that time to me has made me feel better. I'm more present. It's something I'd like to work on next year, is just being less afraid and more present, but I'm not exactly sure how to do that.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job. Someone once challenged me because I was struggling with a lot of the same things you did when I had kids your age and trying to operate a business. And he asked me to rate my eulogy from my kid's perspective. Mm-hmm. And it still feels like a punch in the gut when I say that out loud, but it's shifted my entire way of thinking around how I schedule my time and thinking about that mindset of, maybe, we're busy, we're going back and forth between New York and Toronto. There's going to be some sacrifices, but I'm always thinking about in my schedule where and how present I can be with my kids and my family as the first priority. And it's it doesn't stop. It's every week when I'm writing my calendar, I do that first. And it's about presence, because I everything you said I can relate to. So for me, that's helped. That mindset and that perspective has shifted my presence to zone in on that as the first priority. So that's helped me.
I'll try, man. I'll try. I'm hoping. I mean, it feels better this year than it did last year. So I feel like I'm making improvements and just dealing with stress in general and getting more accepting. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm excited. That's what really makes me happy. I think when I started this, I was really concerned about making my parents proud. I want people to notice me, to respect me, to be seen. And I used to, when I'd get a chance to go to something cool, be like, oh my God, this person invited me to X. The founder of ABC is going to be there. And now 7 years later, I just don't give a shit anymore. I get invited to something that's going to be a flight. Forget it. I just my best thing is literally if I can just stay at home in my house with my family, makes me so happy. Yeah. So I think things are improving.
Well, I think we've both heard every founder that's more experienced than us is the most powerful thing we can do is say no. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of power in that. And it feels good to say no and free up your time ultimately.
Yeah. And another big one for people listening. So we've shifted, we're remote first, and we're always very comfortable working remote. And so we record all our meetings. And now I'm actually trying to just not join any meetings and watch the recordings on 2X while I'm going for a walk or working out. So I've traded in every week, call it 10 hours, 15 hours of meeting time. I'm doing that in 7.5 hours while I'm at the gym. And so it's made a very big difference. I'm trying not to join any meetings unless, even after I can just say, hey, this was good, this wasn't. I'm trying to give the team more power and just get out of, because meetings suck so bad, and then if you can double your information intake while you're doing something effective, I think that's going to be a pretty big game changer. So I just we had a treadmill. I just bought a big iPad with an arm. So I'm going to start trying to just take a lot of the meetings that I do take on the treadmill. So I'm walking. I'd heard something, if you can get 3-4 hours of zone 2 during the week, while you're working, it can make a massive difference in longevity. So some of these little things where I'm still working, but working a little bit better are pretty interesting to me and something I'm looking to get into this year.
That's great. Okay, Robbie, the next section of our podcast here is questions from the impact community. We send out on social media questions that our community wanted to hear. So these are rapid fire, but take as much time as you want to answer them, okay? All right, first question is, What was your biggest learning from your 8 days living in a cave in isolation and darkness?
Somebody went deep, man. Oh, that's cool. So it was like so dark, like you never actually adjust. And so you don't realize like how boring without stimulation life actually is, because we're overstimulated all the time. So it's so easy to take for granted just like sight. So 8 days, like just sitting, it's so long.
I can't imagine it.
Like even a 10-day meditation retreat is grueling, but like you still go to eat and go to bed and walk around. And so this was like, by the end of it, it's just so boring. Your mind is going so fast that when you come out, the level of gratitude of just the simplest things, like it was probably one of the best mornings of my life. Opening the door, coming out and seeing, like I remember, like you haven't seen color in so long, and so you can't see anything that's dark outside, and just to see the sunrise, like the first rays of blue like hitting my eyes, and like, wow, blue as a color, like if you don't see anything for 8 days and then you see that, wow, it just makes you realize like every moment is so amazing. But when your mind is going all the time, it's like impossible to appreciate it. So it almost prepares you. It's almost like you die. Like it's very similar. It's very popular in Buddhist traditions to prepare for death through the darkness. And it's almost like you experience a form of death and then come back and you're so grateful for like the simplest things. Like just this, it was, those few moments that morning of like swimming in a lake in the woods, smelling some essential oils, eating breakfast that I could see was unbelievable. So just, It was a big gratitude practice of like the simple things can make you happy.
Very cool. Great lesson. Did you really get engaged in a sauna?
Yeah, I did. I did. In Inward, which still exists on Geary Street. So we were going for a walk, and before my wife was like, just out of nowhere, was like, so like, are you ever going to propose? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, cause it was happening, rings in my pocket. So we went in the sauna in Geary for anyone who's been to Inward, and I had a ball of ice, like the snowballs, and there was a ring in the ball of ice, and she was giving me a massage. I was kind of like getting worked up from the massage, and as the ice ball melted, the ring was in the middle, and so it melted into her hand. And then we did an ice bath together and like looked each other in the eyes. So that space Inward is like very special to me. It's where Othership started, and then also where we got engaged.
Awesome. Okay, you talked about working out earlier. What's your favorite type of workout routine right now?
It's just like what I can do in my house. So like I can't wait to retire and just like work. Like I would spend like 3 hours a day working out. It just makes me feel so good. So right now I'm like pretty proud of myself where I've come in the last year from being just like a vape smoker all day. But I'm doing 2 full body lifts. So I have a trap bar at home. I have a squat rack out back.
Nice. But
I'll only use that in the summer. So trap bar, some adjustable dumbbells. So I'll do a weight day, maybe like deadlifts, incline bench, a bit of shoulders. I have a pull-up bar, a salt bike, rower, and a treadmill. And so 2 days a week I'm doing weights. 1 day a week I'm doing a 60-minute row, which is like new for me. Like usually gets about 12 kilometers, and I'll just listen to Fathoms, like recorded meetings. Okay. And then 1 day a week I'm running 5K in intervals. So aiming for 4 workouts a week. Super fast. None of them are more than like 45 minutes outside of that row. And I try to just pop down in the daytime during the workday and hit it. And so they're all like in my house, my basement by myself. And it's been like pretty consistent for the last kind of year and a half.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay. What's something about you that most people don't know about?
I don't know. I try to share like, my vulnerable
feelings. Yeah, you're a pretty open book. So.
I'm like pretty nerdy. Like I really like sci-fi books. Okay. So I'm like huge fan. Like I've read probably 200 plus series, like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all that stuff, Game of Thrones. I just read a new one called The Sun Eater, which is like, I think it's the best sci-fi series of all time. So every night before bed, I used to read a lot of like personal development stuff, and now I don't, because I'm working. I need to like shut my mind off. So every night before bed, I'll have my Kindle and I'll read like minimum 15 minutes, 30 minutes. And I have to read fiction. And so I love like, even romance, big romance fan. So outside I'm like a very hard competitor, but inside I'm like quite soft with like my wife. So I don't think people would get to see that interact with me.
All right.
Definitely
that's
not on a construction.
That's gotta be the hook for this podcast.
Definitely not on a construction site. You won't see that piece, but there's a softness.
If you had to pick, are you a sauna person or a cold plunge person?
Ooh, it's a tough one, man. I think you change over time. Like I can do a sauna every day. Like at any time you can be like, hey, let's do a sauna. But like even now, like I would do this in a sauna. Like it's
Yeah.
just being in a sauna is just the most relaxing thing. But a plunge, like the feeling after the plunge is unmatched. I think after like a long 2-minute plunge, when you get out, that feeling is like, you know, I used to struggle with drugs. I love coffee. Like I like that stimulation.
Yeah.
So I think that feeling is unmatched, but probably sauna. And recently I'm a big, people don't know this about me, big tubber.
Okay.
I like baths. I like hot
All
tubs.
right.
So I kind of, I would say the steam is like the lowest of all the features in my opinion. And the other three are like all pretty close.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite Impact Kitchen menu item?
Okay, I'm so happy you asked me this because I want to make sure like people know. Like I actually think I'm like the top customer. Like I'm up there, man. Like for 10 years, like last year I think I ordered over 100 times, which is like one in every 3 days. And I'm checking like I'm spending like
Wow.
you know, $7,000 a year. I've tried every single menu item. Every time I'm like sending you pictures of like when I eat these massive meals. So the longest running item for me is the paleo waffle.
Okay.
I think the fact that it's healthy is mind blowing, but it is like the best. Like my sweet is a crepe or pancake. So I've had crepes and pancakes everywhere in the city, and the Impact waffle, pound for pound, is like maybe my favorite dessert of all time.
All right.
So unbelievable. Big breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big Impact breakfast guy, and I've switched up my order many times. I think the omelet is outstanding. Get it with like jalapeno, feta cheese, mushroom, red pepper. The sides also, the chia pudding, the overnight oats, the chocolate pudding, super underrated. The brownies are incredible. Obviously the sea salt chocolate cookie, classic OG. The curry, I don't know if is the curry still on the menu?
Still going.
Big. I like this move to kind of have these like dinner items. You know, the braised beef ad in the last year was epic. So Impact for me as like a place you can eat breakfast, lunch, dinner where it's actually healthy. Like there's another restaurant in New York, we don't have to name it, that's like really popular and it feels healthy, but it's not, you know, it's just a bunch of sugary food and a cool environment. And so when I go to Impact, it's like, okay, the food's actually, no matter what you order on the menu, it's healthy. I don't know if people like know how attentive to detail. Like I remember you changed one of the sauces and I was like, dude, the sauce is, what happened to it? You know? And you're like, oh, it had some like little dust of seed oil in like one of the powders. And like, you just care so much about every ingredient. And then the quality is I've had it more than 1,000 times. And like, you know, there's maybe 2 meals out of 1,000 where I was like, it wasn't perfect. So it is my favorite restaurant. It's the place I've eaten at the most, you know, and so to have that in Toronto, I just have a lot of respect that you're able to build this.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, Rob. Okay, your number one breathwork hack or advice?
Yeah, it's simple, like 3 minutes, you know, like it can just before bed, even this is like a ChatGPT thing, like especially for people with ADHD, like breath work for 3 minutes before bed is actually one of the best things you can do. So you want to exhale slower than the inhale. So you only remember one thing for 3 minutes, like breathe in 4 seconds, breathe out 8 seconds, and you can totally shift your nervous system state for free in 3 minutes. So it's pretty crazy that something like that works. So before bed, you know, whatever you're doing, you're making your nighttime drink or doing a bit of stretching, but just like in 4, out 8 for 3 minutes, and it can really change and prepare your resting heart rate for sleep.
Okay, very cool. Well, you mentioned earlier you don't want to travel this year, but the question here was a bucket list trip you want to take. So down the road, what's the first big trip you want to take when you feel ready?
We did so much travel. Like my wife and I lived abroad while I was working for Ethereum for like 3-4 years. And so we were traveling so much, like, you know, every month a new house, bringing all our stuff, going. We did all these cool excursions. If I had to, so yeah, okay. So it would be with my two things, one summer, one winter, like activities based. So one would be with my son, like he's getting to the age where he's gonna be able to ski. It doesn't matter where, it could be Whistler, Revelstoke, whatever, but some mountain, ski in, ski out, one whole month with him, teaching him to ski every day and just skiing every day, big hot tub, big sauna, and just kind of like working there, but also just like skiing every day with him as he learned. And then the other would be on the flip side, kite surfing. So somewhere like Nasara where I went and like really, I kite surfed for probably 20 years. And so getting back into it with him, both surfing and kite surfing, like again, like one whole month, we go every day in the sunshine. So those two things I can't wait. Like
Okay.
I want to make that happen.
I'm going to bring my son and we're going to join you guys
All right,
for
let's go.
At least a week of that much.
Yeah.
Okay, last question here. What's your biggest inspiration?
I think seeing the change that people can have through some of these programs I've done, like the crazy transformations from people like in the lowest of the low, which kind of changed my life being around people in these environments. So, I had mentioned meditation and landmark and the cave and all that stuff, and kind of moving a lot of those practices that worked for me into something that, at around a $40 price point is available to the average consumer. And so when I come in, we actually saved 2 lives this year. So somebody had left a note about going to commit suicide, and talked to one of our managers and gave them a free membership. And they had come in and they kind of wrote back later and just saying like, hey, this is something, like this actually saved my life. And then somebody else who was an alcoholic got diagnosed with some type of brain bleed, went out and drank. Next day, instead of drinking, came to Othership, also a big member, and found out that had he drank again, he would have died. And so like, wow. I hear that stuff and it's like, okay, keep going. Keep going, like get more people to do this. Like this is real. Like it actually is changing lives. Like we have this loving kindness class, and it's like written by my partners. Like it's, we wrote it, like we made it. And I was doing it with my mom, and she would never take psychedelic medicines, and we're doing it, and you're imagining each other as like babies and like with no, like just wanting to be loved. And it like physically changed my relationship with my mom. And so I was doing that class, like crying, tears. We had a rocky relationship at times, and it's kind of like, holy shit, this like really, these emotional things like really work. So that's always inspiring to me when I see people like using the product and having these changes. And I just want to, when the business gets too stressful, like I was telling you about today, I just want to like, just remember like why.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. All right, Robbie, I built this conversation around Impact Kitchen's core values, actually, starting with passion and purpose, impacting the community, and now building for the future. And before we get into the future, though, I do want to reflect back and take you to your 20s, 30s, and then now 40s. So thinking back in your 20s, what would you say would be something you're really proud of, and then also your biggest learning from that decade of your life?
I think in my 20s, I just wanted to be successful. And so, it was like make money any way that I can. And so I tried it in finance. I think and then I tried it in tech, and I tried it in crypto, while also struggling with drugs. And so I think the learning was just like, it's okay to fail. And the change there was not being comfortable being myself. And so now like this thing we built, it's like such a part of my personality. Like it's a direct reflection of the things I believe. And I think being this person isn't something I was comfortable with in my 20s. So the learning of like, try to be more who you actually are is what I learned from like always striving for money.
That's great. And then your 30s?
My 30s was like, okay, crush it, like go hard. Like it wasn't necessarily for money, but it was like, okay, you were fucking around in your 20s, like go hard into what you want to build. And so I was just building. I'm 41 now. So 7 years of doing this thing every day, so much, have to grind, have to work. Still trying to be successful, but for a different outcome. And I think I lost sight of like, if you have work, wife, kids, health, friends, I like cut friends off. Like, my best friends, I just have no friends. It's because I have no time for them. I think I went too hard into that. So it's this feeling of like fear, grow. It doesn't feel like clean energy. And so I think in my 40s, the goal is more like friends, fun, ease. Still can work, but those days of just like grind, I'm hoping I have a little more wisdom now. We have a little more resources, and so I can be more at ease, enjoy, play. That's not the current case, yes. But that's my wish for my 40s. Yeah.
I like it. When we're 50, we'll reflect back.
Yeah.
So I think about where we're at in society right now, when we're in a digital age and it's only increasing. We know loneliness is up, burnout's up, mental health issues are up. Othership's playing a significant role in people's lives now. How do you see, as we're entering into an AI time and digital is going to become more and more and more, and I think in real life events and places to go to are going to become more valuable in our society. When you think about that, how do you see Othership being positioned in, the next 5 years?
I think it's positioned perfectly. I mean, I feel the way society's going is actually going to be less digital. Like for the first time, phone use has declined. So I think it hit its peak. I think people using social, like people who grow up now have a better sense of like how to use social than, when it's dropped on. Like if you grow up with these tools as a kid, I think you become, it's easier for you to like navigate them. So last year was the most phone use we've ever seen on social, and it's starting to decline. And I think people are going to have more free time. So, 5 years, 10 years, robots, AI, like it just means you're going to, I'm like super optimistic. I think it's like, hey, we're all going to have all this time to like enjoy our lives. So everybody's going to be exercising, stretching, doing service to others and helping. And so it's like if you're only working 2 days a week, what are you going to do? I think like entertainment, gyms, socializing, new forms of religion. I think new forms of religion is like a really interesting one to look at. So if in a world where like work and scarcity aren't like major factors, how do you find meaning? And that's an issue that like we don't have an answer to. So these group meetup places to find meaning, I think are going to, like humans will be at a premium connecting with them. Maybe there's jobs where it's just like, hey, you're a good person to hang out with and you bring good vibes. So people want to be around you. So if all your basic needs are met, I'm like super bullish on in-person experiences, food, connection.
And then for Othership, I know you are going to continue to grow the brand in New York City. You have some big projects in the works. Where would you like to see the brand go over the next, 1, 2, 3+ years?
Yeah, I mean, I always was very inspired by religion. So the idea that you can, for me, be like a drug addict, investment banker, finance person with no meaning, and then use all these different tools to kind of find meaning. And so I looked at like, what is the stack of those tools? And it's, a place that you can meet weekly, which is what we have now. It is a app with certain practices, like our breathwork app. It's groups, so the ability to easily, which we haven't done yet, we're working on, it's the ability to easily meet other people in the community, to connect with them more frequently. And then it's like a pilgrimage. And so I would love to build something like Thermae Whitby on the outskirts of town, where you go for the day, you have a day in nature, mega bathing experience, and then these retreats like Hoffman, Tony Robbins are happening there that our guides run. And so you kind of have this place where you go once a week. You have this app that you can use for personal development. Maybe it has a chatbot style therapist, something like that, that's helping you with emotional inquiry. There's groups of people in the community you can meet, and then there's this pilgrimage you take. And so even if that's just in Toronto, New York, and those two cities, I can see building that stack of like, hey, I'm looking for meaning. I can find it here and go deeper and deeper. That would be a goal I'm like pretty excited about over the next 10 years.
Very cool. I haven't heard you talk about that before, so that's exciting. I can see it happening. Well, Robbie, I want to thank you for being on the Impact Community Podcast. You really are making an impact, and your journey is so inspiring to me and to, I know, your entire community. So appreciate you as a person, and thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.